Welcome to The Feed, hosted by Allegiant Calls, where it's all about the sound. Sponsored by Dakota Decoys, Migrant Ammunition, Bush Rats, and Gator Waders. Confidence in every step. To The Feed, we're here with Andy back again. For everybody watching on YouTube, that is not Stacy in the center. Stacy's mustache has gotten a lot more classy since you seen him last time. We have actually Hardy here. We have moved up in the world 2 episodes in, and Hardy already wants to be a part of the feed. But no, Andy's still down there on the end, looking. Is that like that's like an Allegiant shop shirt?
Yeah.
I feel like you just got off the Snap-on truck.
Yeah.
Like that's
It's about as expensive as a Snap-on truck, too.
no, hey, well,
It's got my 73rd payment coming up. But,
that's what I'm talking about.
we getting there.
You always owe the truck.
Yep.
But the man in the middle is none other than Mr. Wren. He is another member of Allegiant Cause, kind of on the team. So we're going to introduce him, and he's got a little interesting. The part of the world he lives in is a little different than Arkansas or Texas or Oklahoma, and does a little hunting there. So he's going to kind of give us a little bit of that. But Wren, Allegiant Cause, what do you do?
I'm basically a regional rep for Allegiant Calls. I handle the North Alabama region for the main part. I help out with the shows, setting up, working the shows, interacting with customers, interacting with vendors. Basically, just anything that needs help with, I'm your guy.
So when we talk about Allegiant, I guess, guys, y'all have probably noticed by now, I don't think any of us just have a set job. We all just kind of do whatever needs to be done at the time. Andy's goes from making leather to making studios for podcasts, whatever. I told him the other day, I got a little special project I want done, so just that. So Wren's going to be that for North Alabama. What town do you live in?
I'm from Athens, Alabama.
So Athens, that's a little bit of a drive from where we're at in Central Alabama. So he kind of can help out that way a little bit. But he's from Athens, which is North Alabama, and for anyone that doesn't know, it's kind of hidden. There may be some people listening to this and you're going, please be quiet, please be quiet. But we're not going to tell anybody's honey holes. But North Alabama, tell us about. There are actually ducks, not just wood ducks, but there are huntable ducks in North Alabama.
Man, yeah, we do have a decent bit of huntable ducks. And when I say decent bit of huntable ducks, we're talking, you big ducks, your mallards, gadwalls, widgeons, pintails, your standard puddle ducks that 90% of us are after. There is that weird diver crowd. We got a few of them too. Those guys are different up there, but
yeah, I talked about the first one. I kind of cut my teeth shooting bluebills on catfish ponds, and I quickly realized, hey, we're not even having to hide. These things just come to you. It's a little different, but
them diver hunters up there, they're a little bit different breed. I mean, I'd hunt divers if I had catfish ponds around up there, where you have a decent bit of them, but they were fewer and far between up there. So them guys are out there. I mean, I shout out to them. Them guys, they're after it. They're out there hunting. I mean, they're scouting that river hard. Tennessee River, Wheeler, Gullersville, those typical areas that North Alabama is known for. But them guys are putting some hours in them boats.
So other than the divers on the Guntersville, the Tennessee River, that we all kind of know, what are y'all hunting where you're killing your what we call big ducks, your puddle ducks?
So probably the most famous thing in North Alabama is the Swan Creek Be Water Unit on the Swan Creek Wildlife National Area.
Okay, we're going to get into Swan Creek in just a minute, but
other than that, there's a lot of TVA land.
Okay.
TVA land, TVA waters, little areas on the river that flood or have water in the winter pools. That's public land. Hunt just on the river. I mean, and it's everything from little timber swamps off the river to, obviously hunting off a riverbank somewhere. But you got a little bit of everything from little buckbrush, little sloughs, and little timber sloughs on the river. And that's generally where they're killing those big ducks.
Well, I guess that's going to be a little different than most of our river system here is Alabama Power or Corps of Engineers. neither of which you can. I mean, you can stay in the boat and you can hunt in Central Alabama, but you can't do what you're talking about. So TVA is a different. That's huntable land.
Yeah, so TVA, I mean, and it comes a little bit more than just waterfowl hunting when it comes to TVA. You can deer hunt with a rifle on TVA land, turkey hunt. You can do all that. You can get out of your boat when you're duck hunting. You can get out of your boat, hide your boat 150 yards down a riverbank, stand on the river, stand up in the brush. The way their rules and guidelines work, there's a certain area from the water's pool that you're allowed to stand in, regardless if it's on somebody's property that borders that comes up to the river. You've got an allotted space right there that TVA has the rights to.
I guess I never realized that you could. Like I said, because the Coosa River has the same thing where Alabama Power owns so far away, but you better not be standing on Alabama Power land. That's private property that Alabama Power owns. You can't. Their rules read you can't. So TVA is the opposite, that you can.
Yeah, and TVA is also federal. Alabama Power state.
Well, okay. I guess that's
federal government entity.
Yeah. So North Alabama, that's not a waterfowl destination per se, but we were talking earlier. What year did you say your dad was probably hunting it when?
So it was in the early 70s, late 60s is when my dad was, he was still a kid, but that was when he was getting to really see the end of the golden era, the real golden era of North Alabama waterfowl hunting. Now, that to be said, the waterfowl hunting definitely dwindled over the years, and more recently than what it used to be. I mean, the early 2000s, the 90s was still a great time period for duck hunting in North Alabama, especially the Tennessee River Valley. But back in the 70s, the 60s, the 50s, that time frame, the Tennessee River Valley was very comparable to Arkansas with the amount of ducks and geese and just waterfowl in general, and the availability to hunt. The numbers were there. It was very comparable to Arkansas.
So it seems like I've heard somebody saying, correct me if I'm wrong, that they used to have migrating honkers in North Alabama. There used to be pits in fields where they hunted migrating honkers in North Alabama.
We did. So what we had back then was the St. James Flyway, or the St. James geese. So I remember hearing stories from my dad, and like you said, they were hunting out of pits, hunting migrating honkers. But then in the late 80s,
so those honkers left when everybody else did. When they pretty much go extinct, we think, and then we find out that they didn't, and we place them, and we do all this other stuff. But when Illinois and Arkansas, they shoot migrating honkers. But when Illinois, Arkansas, the Mississippi River, there's stories about shooting migrating honkers. In North Alabama, they were shooting that same those migrating honkers.
Yes, and it was a big migration of honkers, and it was realistically bigger than duck hunting in North Alabama. Was hunting the migrating honkers. I mean, like you said, they were hunting them in pits.
I mean, there's
pits, hunting in just duck holes. I mean, flooded fields in general.
There's no part of me that can comprehend sitting in a pit in North Alabama shooting honkers. Like, to those guys, it was normal.
Yeah.
But it's been so long, probably since we've seen that it seems just unrealistic. I mean, every year, I know it happens up there for y'all are too. For some reason, we get a push late October, early November, where snows and specks get too far east, and for 2 or 3 days, we'll have them just streaming west because they're like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. So it seems weird to us, but to them, those honkers were just...
That was a part, but it was more than just, they were coming to winter in that area. It wasn't like they just got too far east or they went too far south or too far west. Those honkers were there to winter, which was very far-fetched for us now.
Yeah.
Wouldn't believe it if we saw it.
I mean, I guess I guess the closest to here that I've shot a migrating honker would have been Texas, Oklahoma.
Mine would be
Me.
Kentucky.
Yeah, I've never. Yeah, that would be closer than there, but a lot of lessers and cacklers. But we did shoot. We did have some big honkers that we would see in the spread every year that just kind of
Yeah.
inherently come. But Kentucky, you've got to get outside, really past Arkansas, past Missouri. I guess a little bit of Missouri, you may get a few honkers, but Illinois, Kentucky, kind of that line across northern Texas and depending down to Oklahoma to get honkers again. So that's a long way from North Alabama where that migration has kind of stalled per se from where it used to go to.
Well, and I'm not going to get into why that flyway stopped. It's kind of political,
Mhm.
so I'm not going to get into why that. But that flyway was basically ended. It didn't change.
Okay, so I guess I'll get with you after because I don't know any. It's all stuff I don't really know about. I've never really looked into why North Alabama hunting isn't. It's just never.
And I'm just strictly talking about the geese on that same
Yeah.
point. The honkers.
Okay.
The ducks, man, it's kind of just like everywhere else in the South, other than maybe you get down into Venice, Louisiana, but those ducks just like the coastal region anyways.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of all over. I mean, Arkansas is seeing it. Alabama's been seeing it for a lot longer than they are now. But, Arkansas, Mississippi, northern Louisiana, they're seeing it. But that migration is just kind of staying farther and farther north. They're not having to come down as far south anymore.
Yeah, I think the birds, and you hunt in Arkansas some too, but the birds we do see for sure are going to be your calendar. I call calendar birds. They're coming because they get shorter, whether it's 70 degrees north of them or 20 degrees north of them with snow. They're coming because the days get shorter.
Yeah.
The gadwall, the speckled bellies, they're coming no matter what. Some of your green winged teal are going to come. Not a big push of them, but some of those are going to come because the day gets shorter. But Alabama, here, central Alabama, we don't get those birds at all, I would really say. Unless it gets really cold somewhere.
Pushing them down north and in the south.
Yeah. But y'all are getting some of those calendar birds in North Alabama.
We have a very healthy gadwall population. And they're definitely calendar birds because it doesn't matter if it's 90 degrees in October, towards the end of October, or if it's 50 degrees in October. Just when them gadwalls start showing up.
If you've got water, there's going to be gadwalls. Where they go, you're fighting. Of course,
They're going to be on the Tennessee River.
Yeah.
On Wheeler, on Gunners will start in late October. They're going to come, and like you said, they're calendar birds. That day gets shorter. Daylight gets shorter. They start moving farther south, and that's just what they do. They don't care about the weather.
Yeah, that's
But then you get into your more, your prized possessions, your pintails, your mallards, widgeons. That's when you got to have that cold front, that push of them coming back.
So, the mallard to pintail. That's what everybody. If everybody can shoot their 4 mallards and their 1 pintail, they don't care if they shot another dove. They have done it. Except Stacy, he sees widgeon and he gets really excited with those cotton tops. Those boys on the West Coast and out in Texas will look at you like you're crazy. First widgeon we shot out there, I was like, "Don't do this a widgeon." They were like, "Yeah, man, why'd y'all shoot that?" I was like, "What do you mean why'd we shoot this a widgeon?" He was like, "Man, we really wanted this limit to be all mallards and pintails today. Y'all are shooting widgeon." I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna shoot every widgeon that comes by." Yeah, I'll probably not gonna let a mallard go. Kill some pintail. We'll let the pintail fly for the widgeon, But yeah,
I swap widgeons out on pintails the other day. I want my widgeons over my pintails.
Widgeons do it a lot better too.
But again, I get into it because I love to eat them.
Yeah.
Widgeon, that's my number 2 favorite duck to eat.
A green winged teal for me is number 1.
That's my number 3.
What's your number 1?
Woodcock.
A wood duck? No, I like them. I'm not gonna say they're bad, but to me, the green winged teal has always been my.
I love my acorn eaters, man.
Yeah. But I've never.
One's gonna be good even when you pick it up, you shake it, it sounds like a maraca.
That's But no, I've never done wood duck this way. One of the best times I've ever eaten duck, we were in Arkansas, and my neighbor from college, I was hunting with him up on the Black River, and my goodness, it was cold. It was really cold. We had killed just a couple birds, and he just took and pan seared with the fat still on the breast some gadwall that we'd shot. And man, that was some of the. And it may have been because it was 20 degrees and I'd been chasing birds for 4 days and we hadn't really killed very many and I was just hungry. But I've eaten duck in a lot of ways, and that was. But I've never done a wood duck like that.
We did it. We did it last year at his place. Was it last day of season last year? We
It
went.
was last day of season. We got done. I mean, we killed a couple. Killed some mallards. Killed a couple wood ducks. Now I'm breasting them mallards out, threw them on the smoker. But I mean, fresh wood duck, pluck it, burn the little feathers you can't pluck out, breast it with the skin on it. Sear that skin so that fat kind of renders a little bit, but you get a good crisp from that skin. But that skin, don't even let the other side touch the skillet. Then you throw it on the smoker.
Oh,
Let it cook the medium rare.
okay.
on
See, we
internal
finished it.
temperature.
We
That's-
flipped it and finished it in the skillet.
It's not bad
It's
that
not
way.
bad.
I like
But
that way
I've
too.
never put it on the smoker after we seared it.
Sear the skin, you get that crisp, get that skin crispy, but you're not really cooking the meat any.
Yeah.
You're just-
Because that was
you're
our
just
problem
cooking
was
you're
the
just
ducks
cooking
got
the
to
skin.
medium rare before the skin got super crispy. But you're just cooking it on one side and then going on a smoker, pellet grill, that kind of thing with it. And then you're,
No,
Yep.
let it smoke to a
And
medium rare temp.
oh,
It was money.
that is a game.
It was
changer.
money.
I've never,
And you don't. There's no marinade. There's no nothing else in it. All you do, throw whatever seasoning you want to throw on it. Sear that skin, just the skin. Don't ever flip it. Throw it on the smoker.
oh, see, it's cooking with Ren tonight.
Yeah,
That's
there we
where
go.
we're actually going to go with this. But
Hey, I'm a big boy over here.
Gotta
I never
eat.
shied away from a meal.
Gotta
I ain't
eat.
gonna
That
eat
is
nothing but good food.
I've never thought about putting it and finishing it. One time we did, take a skillet, stick it in the oven, but there's just something about having that smoke flavor on a duck that it takes that game. The smoke takes the gaminess out of it.
It does. Look, it takes that oily.
Yeah.
It gets that oil. That allows that oil to cook out without taking the moisture out of the meat.
I can see that. We actually have taken in some of the best ways I've ever had. We'll just talk about cooking ducks and geese at this point. That's going to be where we're going for just a minute. But we killed a bunch of lessers and capers in the panhandle. I mean, when you get out there and you really get in them, man, there's a bunch.
Oh, yeah.
You're not talking killing 4 or 5 geese. You're talking, you're killing a lot. And we're like, man, we can't eat this many goose bread. Like, well, I had a buddy here, and the guy I was with, they made meat sticks and stuff out of it, and summer sausage. I've had summer sausage out of deer. I've had summer sausage out of beef. That was the best summer sausage I've ever had because that goose is really gamey compared to those little geese. But when you do the summer sausage, it held some of that meaty flavor. When you do it out of deer, it tastes like whatever they put in it.
Yeah.
It doesn't taste like meat. It tastes like
Whatever
cheese
that
and
seasoning
jalapenos.
is.
What they were seasoned with. That goose held a little bit of flavor, so that's something that I was like, you know what? You got some geese or even ducks. I mean, because sometimes you shoot ducks, you're like, some people like us. I like seared duck breast. It's really good. My wife does, but I don't want to eat it like hamburger meat 5 nights a week.
Yeah.
Now you give me a steak 5 nights a week, I'm down. But I can eat duck. Every 2-3 weeks. Speckled belly is my go-to. Andy cooks some on the weekend.
Whew.
Tell us about that speck, Andy.
Oh, it was fine, son. I didn't do nothing fancy. I Open Seasons in Stuttgart has got a brine that they sell that they do all their duck meat and stuff in that they cook. So I soaked them in that brine for 24, 48 hours, pulled them out, threw them on the pan, cooked it like a steak with some kinders. It was fine.
The speckled
You
belly.
say you can't eat them. I brought back, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 breasts, something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it took me 3 nights, but we ate all of them. Every one of them.
Now, I've had, we've shot cranes out there. Everybody, the crane. If you cook it right, that speckled belly is really, really close.
That's the next closest. That's the closest bird to a sandhill crane as far as taste wise on the meat. But without a doubt, that's the closest you can get to a sandhill crane.
Absolutely. And the crane, to me, it's good. It's better than a speck. but there's not as much difference to me to really just go chase those things and say they're just phenomenally better. The speckled belly is so close that it's almost like having a ribeye in the New York strip.
Yep.
The New York strip, if you cook it right, it's not a ribeye, but man, it's pretty doggone close. You know.
So y'all get too rich for my blood, son. I'm a chuck steak guy.
Chuck-
Poor man's ribeye, son.
So you know, but that's cooking duck. I've never thought about putting them on a smoker though. But we shoot those bluebills on catfish ponds, but they're on catfish ponds. So everybody I've always heard divers are terrible. Divers are terrible. Now I'm sure if they're in Mobile Bay and they're eating scallops and shrimp every day, they're probably not going to taste great. But when they're eating Purina catfish food every day, let me tell you, I could cook a bluebill and put it beside a wood duck, and if I didn't tell you, because the breasts are the same size, if I didn't tell you were eating bluebill, you wouldn't know.
Well, that's the same way I treat them up here. I'll cook them just the same as I would a mallard or a gadwall, because I could cook a whole mess of mallard and gadwalls and throw 10 bluebills or 10 ringnecks or redheads in there with them, and you would never be able to pick one of them out.
And
Well,
not just because of what it is. The only thing I've ever been like, we've cooked it before. Okay, count. You got ducks. Let's cook the ducks up a lot. We cook them, and I'd eat it, and I'd go, that one was a shoveler. Like, I can tell the difference. A shoveler just doesn't taste. I mean, that bluebill was phenomenally better than the shoveler. Like, you couldn't pick it out. But the shoveler to me just had not a gamey taste, a greedy taste to it.
Like a oily.
Oily, yes. The shoveler is the only duck that I've eaten that I could
greasy.
greasy. Now, of course, I'm not cooking regazzers, but a shoveler, as far as what you're going to shoot most times, that's the only bird I've ever noticed that if you even cooked right, it just doesn't. It didn't have the same taste as what the rest of them did. I'm not a big shoveler guy, so I try not to shoot them. Yeah.
Just because I'm very big on if I'm gonna shoot it, I'm gonna eat it kind of person.
And I'm with
And
you.
so I kind of was the same way. The shovelers just are really not that good eating, in my opinion. I would much rather eat a bluebill or a redhead or ringneck over a shoveler every day. So I just assume not shooting one.
Yep. So it's a little bit of, I guess, what was the chef's name when we were growing up? The Cajun guy. What's his name, Andy? That was on Channel 10, public television.
Oh Lord,
Oh man.
you're showing your age, Kendall.
Yeah, thank you. Guys, we used to didn't have. I remember getting satellite Prime Star. I remember getting Prime Star at our house. But anyway, it's a little cooking with Ren. But to finish up, you mentioned something earlier. I don't know if you mentioned on podcast when we were talking before, but Swan Creek. So Andy will probably, you've hunted it since when Ren was there, correct? So we'll get both views of. You tell me about. Because Swan Creek got real famous the beginning of this year, springtime, like, it was really close to getting shut down and the bridge getting built up.
The bridge is still possible,
But, I mean, Swan Creek is a big enough deal. DU and Delta got involved and are doing, as far as I've heard, everybody says good things about what they're doing to try to keep Swan Creek open. It's a refuge and a WMA.
yes, they.
Well, I said Wheeler Refuge. I guess.
Well, it's
Swan Creek.
Wheeler Refuge. It borders the WMA borders the refuge.
So, but Swan Creek, I said, did you hunt it growing up, basically?
I've grown up hunting. I had diapers changing blinds out there. My diaper was changing the blind out there. I've been there that long. I mean, I've been hunting it since my dad could literally carry me in a 5-gallon bucket. I've been out there with him. So I was sitting. I put it this way. And this is where I'm about to tell y'all my age, so sorry about this, guys. I was 3 years old in 1996, sitting in a blind with my dad.
Oh, you're not as old as me, so you're good. I guess I'm still the oldest man in the room.
Oh, yeah.
You are. You are.
The gray in the beard really shows it. But so, what was Swan Creek? Let's say, when did it change to the draw for the blind? What year?
So, let's see, I'm trying to think, it was 2019.
Okay, so
was the first year of the online draws.
Okay, so you tell us about 2019 previous, the Swan Creek that you hunted, and then because you said you kind of when it went to a draw, you kind of backed off. So you tell us about that 2019 before Swan Creek.
So it's always been a draw. system.
Okay.
Now, there's been a couple, the old ways that it was the longest, and this happened before I got to start hunting. But they used to be on draw day, they would cram as many blinds in there as you could fit in that unit till there was enough that nobody was, you couldn't fit another blind and everybody be 150 yards away from each other. But what they used to do, that you draw, and then you had a flag, and you would run down to your boat, and you would run out in that dewatering unit and plant your flag where you wanted your blind, as long as it was farther than 150 yards away.
So there used to be Arkansas boat races in North Alabama. That's what you're telling me?
Nah, well, we'll get more to that.
Okay.
But the draw system back then, you had your flag system. You put your flag where you wanted your blind to go, so you got to physically choose the exact spot you wanted your blind to be at. Well, then they kind of figured, hey, there's a little bit of a crowding issue with all this. I mean, because there wasn't nothing to have 120 blinds in the dewater unit, so they backed it off. Went away from the flag system, and they had put out 50 markers in the dewatering unit, and those represented blind locations. Well, then you would draw. You'd have blind draw Saturday, which was always the same day as Alabama-Tennessee game. Great. It was a glorious day for North Alabama. You had blind inspections.
It's before everybody turned enemies. We're still friends at that.
Well, we were all friends on that day.
Yeah, that's when-
Until the game.
Yeah.
Until the
Yeah,
game. Then,
well, no,
some of us were Auburn fans. We didn't really care. We hoped both of you lost.
Right, yeah. So you had your blind inspection beforehand, and your blind had to pass inspection for it to be entered into the draw. You could only put one person could only enter in one draw. So there were 50 spots, and there'd be anywhere between 200 and 300 blinds put in for the drawing. Yeah, that sounds like a lot, but most of those guys were working in groups, so they wasn't nothing for them. A group could have anywhere between 5 and 15 blinds.
Yeah. So
entered in that
let's
drawing.
divide that by 4. If there's 300 people there, and let's say there's 4 people in the group, you're still talking about 75,
Yeah,
80 blinds total. So there's not very many people that aren't getting somewhere to hunt.
yeah. I mean, you're talking. I mean, you had back then, you with your group, if you had at least 5 blinds out of probably 250, you had a 1 in 5 chance of getting a blind spot,
Yeah,
at least drawing one spot.
So you may get lucky, get 2 or 3. You may get what, but
One.
most every group was gonna have a blind.
Most every group was going to at least draw
Or
a
if you
blind.
didn't, you had a buddy that did. And you would have somewhere to hunt.
And that's the thing, there was all these different groups, factions, whatever you want to call them, little hunt groups that all had that. But then you had groups that were group friends. So you had this group was friends with this group. So where, say, we may have only drawn 1 blind, well, that group drew 4 blinds. Well, they may work it out, and we could hunt one of their other blinds. Our group can hunt one of their blinds, and vice versa. They could hunt our blinds too if we weren't hunting. And so it kind of worked out that way. But so that was that way all the way up until I think 2016. 2016 it changed where you still had 50 spots, but now that you got so the way that worked, well, I kind of jumped ahead a little bit. So prior to 2016, after the flags, when you would draw, say you drew 1. Well, now you had your pick of all 50 blind locations, so you got to choose.
Okay, so you got group 1. You may want blind. That didn't mean you were blind.
You weren't blind.
You may want
location
spot
one.
15.
You may want 26, arguably the best blind in the unit.
Is that in the corn?
Nope, it's in the wheel row actually.
Okay.
But it's the reason that blind, or what most people would consider that to be the best blind in the unit, it was a 60-day blind, and you could hunt it from any wind direction.
Okay.
So you didn't have to worry about what the wind was doing that day. You didn't have to worry about whether the water was up high enough for you to get your blind to the marker.
It was good.
It was a good spot. So that was arguably so. But like I said, so if you drew first, you had your pick of all 50 locations.
Yeah.
Well, then so on and so forth. So now second guy draws, and now he's got pick of the 49 locations left. And so it worked like that all the way up to 2016. 2016, they now changed it to where if you drew, you still had to have your blind up there, but you wouldn't get your blind inspected till after you drew. And when you drew, so they had 50 locations. If you drew first, now you just blew blind marker 1. You didn't get to go pick your location anymore.
Gotcha.
Well, it stayed like that for about 2 years, and then they dropped it down to 30 blinds. And
Is that when could you always just get in a boat and as long as you were 150 yards away on it? Or did that come in when they dropped the 30?
no, you've always been able to walk in or boat in to any spot as long as you were 150 yards away from whoever got there before you or one of the blinds being hunted.
And for those,
And that was if the blind was being hunted, because if the blind wasn't being hunted, you could literally go up. You weren't supposed to get in the blind, but you could go. You could come up and lean against the blind and hunt over their decoys. Never have to put a single decoy out. You could do that. Tie your boat blind up to their blind.
okay, so, but the boats were always part of it.
Boats have always
okay.
been part of it. And then in 2019, they switched to an online draw system and that's where a few people like myself, I stopped putting in for the draws. Fortunately for me, I had sold my blind before they announced they were sold all my blinds the summer prior to them announcing them going to an online draw system. So I was able to get top dollar for my blinds. Now those blinds ain't worth a cent to anybody.
And for those of you that don't know, I've been up there once or twice with some guys. These are very elaborate blinds that y'all use. I mean, it wasn't.
It's not like you real foot blinds. They're
No.
not that elaborate. But most people are going to be hunting as some sort of A-frame style blind, but it's a floating blind. It's got a boat compartment and then a hunting compartment.
Mhm.
So you pull your boat up underneath it, you exit the boat, get into the hunting compartment. 4-hole, 5-hole blinds.
I mean, it was arguably, we got there at, of course, before daylight, and we left at when shoot light was over. It was probably the most comfortable blind I had ever sit in because you can sit in a sled that's really nice. About 3 or 4 hours in a sled, and you're like, or a pit, and you're like, okay, I got to get out. I got to walk. Like, this is, even if you're shooting birds, you're like, man, I've been kind of cooped up. Those blinds that because everybody's was pretty much the same.
They're all the same. Everyone's got their own blind. It makes it something a little bit more unique, but they're generally all the same style blinds.
And so this isn't like you're talking about, what we drag around Arkansas, where it's basically a little A-frame sled that you can drag anywhere. I mean, it's an undertaking to move and do and build and everything.
Oh yeah, I mean, and those blinds were made. I mean, like mine were all metal construction, all metal frames, metal siding. Then we had our hog wire panels that our cane and stuff would go into. Then you had some made out of wood. Some guys would go as far as to fully insulate their blinds too.
Yeah.
Spray foam, insulate, double walled.
Yeah.
And
So
it'd be warm as all
oh,
get
we
out
had a
there.
Mr. Buddy in there, and I was shedding clothes. So 2019, they go to that. You're like, you know what? You're still hunting in Arkansas.
I hunt in Arkansas. I mean, I've got my private holes as well, my farm that I
And you're
take care of.
You know what? This just didn't work.
Yeah, it ain't for me. I'm not gonna put in anymore. And this is not everybody felt this way, but for me, I did. I mean, it was for me. I went from having a 1 in 5 on a bad year, maybe a 1 in 6 chance of getting a blind location, to now it's one. You got prior it was at most 300 blinds put in for 50 spots. Well, then it's like I said, it dropped down to 30 spots. But now you've got 3,000, 4,000
Well, you take
people putting
you
in
take
for that
somebody
draw.
like me. I'm gonna buy an Alabama hunting license every year, and I'm gonna buy an Alabama duck stand. Most of my hunting's gonna be in Arkansas. I'm still gonna shoot some wood duck. I can put in
Mhm.
for a blind at Swan Creek. I've got some buddies up there that they hunt if they live up there. I can put in. If I get it, I go, here you go. Here's my information. And I tell them, all you got to do is if I call you and I want to go to Swan, make sure I got a spot.
Yeah.
And that is, to me, and I would be gaining from that living 2 hours away. I'm not going to do that because it takes away from somebody like you that lives a couple minutes away, that is where you hunt, per se. I'm basically stealing a spot from somebody if I do get drawn that's their place to hunt, because that's not my place to hunt. I'm not going to realistically drive 2 hours every weekend to hunt Swan Creek. You know,
And that's what a lot of people would do. But then you had a lot of people like that that would just like, may have a buddy that duck hunt or somebody from like, say, from down here in central Alabama put in for the drawing up there and draw. Well, they've never owned a blind. They don't have the decoys to
I would have nothing.
do that.
I don't even have
Well,
boats.
so they'd be like, oh, hey, well, look, I drew. So they would make a Facebook post and be like, oh, hey, I drew this blind location, but I don't have a blind and I don't have decoys. Would anyone be interested in leasing a blind? And so a lot of people would come in, would get lucky, and this is how they would get a spot because they didn't have anyone draw for them. And they'd be like, hey, look, I got a good blind. I'll decoy it. I'll cane it. Put it on the location. But and it's a 5-hole blind. But I need 3 holes every day. At least 3 holes every day.
Yeah.
In that blind. You can have 2 holes. Or if it was a 4-hole, like, we'll give you your 1 hole. But I need 3 holes every day.
Yeah. So
Unless something gets worked out, but we're not going to be there and you want to take somebody else.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But then you got into the side of it as well. You could only put in a person, you had to have the blinds there. So that limited the number of people that you put in unless you was going to build 50 blinds. Well, now one guy he may shell out $100 or, $300, $500 and pay for 16 relatives or 16 friends that don't duck hunt for their
license and
their stamp and just pay for their whatever their bare minimum. They're already going to have their hunting license for maybe deer hunting.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to pay for your state duck stamp because that's all you got to have, and your management area license. I want you to put your name.
I don't even think you had to have that. You just had to have a CID because a lot of people were putting in with just a fishing license.
Yeah,
you didn't even have to have that. It was CID only.
All you had to have was your conservation ID number.
Yeah, you should
to put in for the draw. So they would have, and I'm not going to name nobody's names because I ain't going to call y'all out like that. But I know people that would have 40 coworkers and then maybe 80 relatives and friends, 90.
Well,
they would have 120, 150 people they know put in for the drawing for them.
You're on Gunnersville and Wheeler. Everybody fishes.
Yeah.
Everybody has a bass boat. So everybody has a license and a CID number.
Yep.
They probably couldn't even tell you the difference in bismuth and steel, but they got a CID number. And so
everybody's got a fishing license because arguably Wheeler's got some of the best bank fishing in the state of Alabama.
In hindsight to that, though, those cards wouldn't have had to be played if they were back at the in-person draw where you had to show up, you had to have the equipment, you had to have your blind inspected, and most of those guys, throughout hunting season might get a little upset at each other, whatever. But on draw day, and this is just what I've heard from all my buddies in North Alabama, it was a good time.
It was a great day.
Everybody hung out.
There was no enemies on blind draw Saturday. A guy that during hunting season, I hate his guts.
Yeah,
you over there hugging each other's necks, having a good time, talking, cutting up. There's no animosity, no tension between anybody.
But there's a little piece of us that on public land, calling birds off of somebody else is what you're there to do.
Competitive.
It's not. I don't care if I don't kill the 2. If I called them off of Jim over there, that's what I'm here.
I killed 2 and I called him off of him and he didn't shoot none. That was a great day.
Yes, and I know that sounds terrible, but they were the same way. That's what everybody enjoys. You're not going to hunt public land if that's not what you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
If you're there, if you're wanting to stack up the birds, you're going to pay for private, and which you still don't stack them up, but the odds are more in your favor.
Yeah.
But there's a piece of you that you're competitive, and we're not playing baseball and football anymore. But by goodness, I can blow a call better than you can, and I'm going to show you that I can work these birds better than you, and they're going to be mine.
Yeah, I mean, and that was what it boiled down to for us. I mean, that was the biggest thing that we loved the most. Us and our guys that we hunt with, my crews that I've hunted with forever, that was our biggest thing. Granted, we like killing ducks, don't get us wrong. We wanted to kill as many of them as we can, but we wanted them to be your ducks, and we wanted to call them off of you. We wanted you to sit there and watch us kill them.
Yeah. So 2019 they go. Andy, you've hunted it more recently.
Yep.
Okay, we got just a few minutes left. Give us the most recent. So it's 30 blinds now. It's an online draw. There's thousands of people putting in draws. What are you doing up there, Andy? That's because you're not putting in for blind draws, correct?
Well, there is no blind draws anymore.
No,
Okay.
so there's no blind draws anymore. That's new this year.
Yeah, this year. Yeah,
This year
this
it is a SOA,
Mhm.
with a weekly day of draw.
Pass. Basically, a weekly pass.
No, it's
No?
actually it's a draw. I think it's Tuesdays and Thursdays, 4 a.m. and then I'm still waiting to get some more information from some reliable sources because this morning was the first one,
Mhm.
but allegedly they go through the line and ask you your first, second, and third and go all the way down. Still waiting to confirm, but so it has
So
went.
this sounds like a cluster.
Yes. So it basically changed the, you couldn't hunt Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Mhm.
So, there was a lot of us that would sleep up there on a Thursday night, get in line to hunt Friday morning. Well, that has now changed from being able to be the first boat, be able to run whatever hole you want to run, hunt whatever you want to hunt, to now you just have to go wait in line at the game warden station for them to, hey,
Assign you a spot.
assign you a spot.
Okay, so I've been there, like I said, once or twice. So there's a lot of. All I saw was one little area. Saw the blinds. Understand that. But so there's a lot of holes on here that you can run where you're not dealing with blinds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's plenty of places to hunt, and I think
I mean, a miniature Arkansas public. I mean,
to an
per
extent,
se, I'm not saying it's anywhere close, but that I'm trying to get.
it was the
everybody listening.
closest thing that we could get in the state of Alabama, and that was kind of what I used it for, was for weekends when I couldn't go west. Slide up there, hunt in the morning, come back, be home by 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, whatever, be home by dinner. And you could still go up there. You could see ducks. You could work ducks. Depending on who you had around you, you could kill ducks. But everything has changed with, I hate to say this, my generation and younger, where nobody wants to work for it. And I'm probably going to hurt some feelings with this, but it's okay. Nobody wants to work for it. They want to be handed something.
Well, I mean, I'll even go back to, we're on private land in Arkansas. I spent many a weekend up until now on private land shoveling mud. Andy has to shoveling mud, cutting boards, wading in water, brushing blinds. Nothing is even handed to you there. Public land is even worse.
And the biggest thing, was if you get beat to a spot, hey, guess what? You got beat, buddy. Plan B. Bounce out, find something else. But this newer generation style, whatever you want to call it, of hunting is, oh, well, you beat me. I'm just going to sit 60 yards from you right here and just going to mess up
And I'll
everybody.
even venture to say it's 75% of them, probably not. There's a small number that ruin it for, it's like everything. There's a small number that ruin it for everybody.
Yep.
And
Or
it's
shooting ringnecks, when you're trying to work big ducks. That's public land in general. But that's I don't agree with everything that's happened at Swan. I haven't hunted Swan near as much as all my buddies have. Last 8 9. I just started to get where I knew Swan and when to hunt it, where to go. Where I felt comfortable hunting and killing ducks out there, and everybody wanted a participation trophy, so they got one.
And I said that's public land. I mean, Arkansas is trending that way in some places. They're trying some stuff this year. And as a hunting community, if everybody could just act right, we've put ourselves as a community in the situation we're in on public land because of what some people do. It's not, we want to blame, we all want to blame the government for everything. But we've put ourselves as a hunt community on public land, for the most part, in the situation, because I butt up in the National Forest, our land does. When I was a kid, there was a lot of people that hunted the national forest. Okay, now it's not because it's work. They're not putting draws in on the national forest. You know why? Because there's nobody there. Nobody's getting shot. Nobody's fighting at the gate over my lock-on's going here. I'm going there. So there is no draw. If people were acting right on these places, there would be no, in the grand scheme of things, you know. And I'm not gonna say everybody. Like I said, most of the time, if you've got 50 blinds, there's gonna be 2 to 3 blinds of people that can act right. Well, it's like when you're a kid in school. 2 people in the class were talking. Now we all don't get paid.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know.
And well, I'm gonna piggyback on that. You're talking about, so there is a big difference. The readiness available of waterfowl huntable habitat.
Yeah.
Is the best way. I know it's a weird way for me to say places to
Oh,
duck hunt.
Yeah.
Compared to deer hunting, you don't see that with deer
Oh,
hunting
yeah. Oh,
as
deer
much
hunting's
because you
different.
think about this. You can go pretty much anywhere in any state and shoot deer.
Oh yeah. Oh no. And I guess
And
for habitat wise, that was probably a terrible
but then
way to
there's
put it.
but then you look at it this way in that form. You know, there's not every state's a duck state.
That's
I
right.
mean, you can pretty much kill, other than maybe the desert, but
Yeah.
other than that,
They
you
kill them in
can-
Arizona and stuff, man. That'd be neat.
I mean, you
to
can
do.
find places you can kill ducks in pretty much any state. But I mean, is it what kind of duck? Not many of them.
I'm
there.
not driving to Arkansas because it's really good in Maplesville.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know, if it was really good in Maplesville, I promise I will be rolling into my house at 9 o'clock every day with a strap of green heads. I'm driving to Arkansas.
and
You
so
know,
and that's the other thing. You know, a lot of people are congregating because that's just where they have to hunt. I mean, there's
Yeah.
not as much of it available. I mean, pretty much if everyone was deer hunting, I mean, anyone could drive pretty much within 45 minutes of their house and find somewhere to deer hunt.
yeah. So and it goes back to, and you hear biologists, it's a lack of habitat. That's what's killing our numbers. That's what's killing the hunt. In the grand scheme, habitat from Canada all the way down. Farmer practices have changed. You can't. There's no magic bullet to fix it.
Yeah.
If it was, we would all load it up and shoot it, and duck hunting would be what it was in the 80s. Well, I say 80s. There was
70s.
70s because the 80s is when we went to the numbers and the points, and everybody got real confused. You know, but so you look at there's no magic bullet, but habitat's probably the biggest.
And I'm not even going to sit here and pretend like I know what's the reason for the habitat loss. I'm not going to pretend that I have really looked into it that much. But the way I see it is the lack of places to hunt causes for these crowds to gather in the places that are available.
Yeah.
And duck hunting, you know, I'm going to say prior to 2012, 2010, duck hunting wasn't a fad. It became a fad.
Yeah.
And so everybody wanted to start. And I'm not going
and
to say anything about what caused it to be a fad other than I'm going to say social media, the popularity of social media
I think that's probably
is going to be the biggest thing. And I'm not
social
gonna-
media has caused a lot of things in the hunting and fishing industry.
Well, you got to do it for the gram, Kendall. You know, that's all we're doing it for.
You're the Instagram man. I don't want. You know, it's caused a lot in the hunting and fishing industry that we probably a lot of us don't like. But it is. We're here now. What are we going to do to deal with it? Yeah.
So,
As I'm doing a podcast that's going to go out on social media.
yeah, as we said, we talk about that
So,
going on.
yeah.
But that's, you know, it's just, we have all these issues now, and I'm definitely going to accredit that. My opinion is just the overcrowded in hunting pressure going on, and that's caused by the overcrowding of the areas. But at the same time, I also understand because that's all the places they got to hunt.
Well, and
So, and that's what they want to do. And yeah, I know it's become a fad and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, even though they may have started into it for a different reason because it was a fad, but they got into it and then they liked it. And now to them, it's not as much of a fad to those guys, but all the new hunters, it was because it's a fad. But soon enough, those new hunters aren't new hunters anymore.
soon enough,
They're doing it because they like it. They love it just the same way as anybody else does.
soon enough, they're
And
not
so more and
shitting.
more people are doing it, which means the hunt pressure will get more, which there's less places to hunt because there's already somebody there.
And I think some of it, they say our numbers are down per license sales. But 20, 30, let's say 30 years ago, everybody that bought license didn't hunt as much as we do.
Yeah.
My wife, Sugars, no Andy's, she knows that from the weekend before Thanksgiving until February, any chance that I have, I'm going to be chasing a duck. Now, that was the way it was when we got married. She does it for us. She deals with a lot that she shouldn't have to, but she does. And
Just
so
like
I'm
I
not
told
changing.
my wife when me and her first started dating, I said, look, you give me my 60 days of hunting season, you can have the rest of them. I said, but I need my 60 days.
60. My wife was talking about that earlier. She actually listens to the podcast. Don't know why. But she's like, so why everybody's always taught 60 days? I said, she was asking about seasons because I hunted in Mississippi for years. Well, my mom texted me. She's like, hey, what time do we need to have Thanksgiving done so you can get going? I was like, well, I'm not going. She's like, why aren't you going? I said, well, I hunted last weekend. Arkansas comes in a week earlier. She's like, oh. I said, I got little boy this weekend. I said, I'm just not going. Well, my mom had even gotten used to, as soon as Thanksgiving is over, I'm putting the dog in the truck and I'm headed out. I'm hitting the
Exactly
road.
what I did.
So, but we all do it. I think everybody that does duck hunt now, for the most part, has that much enthusiasm for it.
Yeah.
There is no casual hunt 2 or 3 days a year duck hunter anymore. I'm sure there's a couple.
They probably are, but those guys are going to play for a guide somewhere because they
Yes.
don't. It's not worth it for them to invest in the boat, the decoys, the calls, all that stuff. Hey, I'm gonna pay my $1,500, $2,000 one time a year. I'm gonna go shoot ducks in my face that I didn't have to work for. They feed me, they house me.
Yeah.
Kill my ducks and
But the overcrowding is probably because everybody is that intense about it, which is good. Now, if we can all get on the same level with getting that intense about trying to figure out how we can get the habitat back and the duck numbers back, and I think it's trending the right direction in the last 2 to 3 years. I think everybody is starting to really think about, we can't just keep killing these things and not care about the animal. I mean, in the grand scheme, we've got to manage it.
you got to do it for the animal. You're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for the love of the animal. You're doing it for the love of seeing that green head turn from one green head to four green heads to a 20 pack. Now that 20 pack's turned into a 50 pack on these trees, and I just set them all in the hole, and it's not even the kill at that point. You took one duck, working this one duck, and turned it into 50, and I just put all of them in this hole from my buddies and all them to shoot. I may not even pick up the shotgun. Because you're that in love with it. You're doing it for the duck. You're not doing it for you.
I've told a lot of people, I'm not a great caller, but if you told me today, hey, look, you can duck hunt the rest of your life. You take your dog, you take your calls, but you've got to leave the gun here. Somebody else has got to shoot it. Sign me up.
100%.
I'm down with it. Now, does that mean every once in a while I don't just enjoy the heck out of squeezing the trigger? No, we all do. We wouldn't go duck hunting if we didn't enjoy squeezing the trigger at some point. But there's a part of you that likes. I saw one mallard opening weekend. I hit her up tall. She locked her wings, and the next time she flapped, she was within killing distance. That's why you do it. Like you talk about, watching them build. You broke one, and then you got 4, and then you got 8, then you got 20, and you tricked them. You trick them. They live in that world. We don't. They live there, and you tricked them. It's the game.
What's the game?
And it's like baseball or football. And I guess it's just the game. And that's the way we're going to end this podcast. It's just the game.